Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our inaugural research showcase for 2021. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone and would like to introduce Professor Colette Miller, our College Dean of Research, to say a few words. Colette.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much, Dr. Maharaj. It's really a pleasure to be here. And on behalf of the college, and as the person who represents research in the college, I'm really delighted to have the opportunity just to say a few words this morning as you are here to participate in this inaugural research event for the Human Resource Management Discipline and Industrial Relations. It's always extremely exciting as we get in a new cohort of PhD and master's students to see how they evolve and grow over time. And eventually it culminates in our students graduating. And this is very exciting, but sometimes we don't, as a university, celebrate the work which has been done enough. And I think this is a really great opportunity to learn what our graduates have been up to for the time that they have been with us. They work very closely with their supervisors. They work very closely sometimes with each other, getting peer support. But for the university more widely, and even for the college more widely, we don't always get the opportunity to celebrate the work which they have done and to learn more about what their contributions are. And so I'm extremely excited that the disciplines in the School of Management, Information Systems and Governance have organized this event. I've learned that it's going to be an annual event, which is even more exciting because I think it will give the existing students something to look forward to, knowing that by the time that they graduate, they will be able to share with each other, with the rest of the school, with the college and with the university, the very important work that they've been doing over time. So I'd like to wish you all a really lovely morning of engagement. And once again, thank you very much to Dr. Maharaj and the colleagues in the discipline of Human Resource Management and Industrial Relations for organizing this event, and all the colleagues who have assisted putting it together. And most importantly, congratulations to the graduates. And also, I'd like to wish them all very well for the presentations this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Colette, for those kind words. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to actually be here today. And now I'd like to, I'm sorry about this, colleagues, but I think I just saw that Prof. MacArthur has actually joined us as well. So welcome, Prof. MacArthur, our DVC College of Law and Management Studies. Thank you, Prof, for taking the time to actually come and join us this morning. We really appreciate college actually taking the time to join us and really participate in the first showcase that we have done for our school. So thank you very much for joining us. So what I'd like to do now is I would like to briefly introduce our speakers for today. We have got our doctoral students that have recently graduated in the November graduation, who will be presenting their papers that they submitted as part of their PhDs to journals. And for those of you that are not aware, this is a requirement of our PhD studies, where students are supposed to produce one what we call a SAPSI accredited journal article that is sent to a journal for publication. So we already help them along their academic journey, their publication journey, by actually producing a paper with them as their supervisors, where we guide and mentor them in the production of this particular paper. For those of us who are here and as academics, we know that publication is a very difficult road, but again, we all have to start somewhere. And I think it's great that it is part of our requirement that our doctoral students, especially those that we'd like to nurture, to join us in academia, actually start off with this journey through this first publication that is a joint publication with their supervisors. So I want to introduce our speakers. The first speaker for this morning will be Grace Nanu. She is an MCOM student, and her thesis was titled A Study of Employment Equity in Higher Education Institutions in Durban. And her supervisor was yours truly. So her study investigated the implementation of employment equity in higher education institutions using the University of KwaZulu-Natal as a case study. A mixed methodology was used, and her results revealed that the barriers to employment equity at the university included remuneration, institutional culture, recruitment practices, selection criterion, retention of designated groups, succession planning, and reverse discrimination. Our next speaker for the morning will be Dr. Lawrence Abdul, and his study was entitled The Intangible Outcomes of Talent Management Practices in Selected South African Higher Education Institutions. And his supervisor was Professor Isabel Martin. And thank you, Isabel, for taking the time to join us this morning. I know Research Office has a very, very busy schedule today, so thank you. His study was about intellectual capital being considered as a strategic tool that creates value for organizations. Therefore, his study investigated the intangible outcomes of talent management practices in some South African universities. The study adopted a knowledge-based view of the firm, a strand of strategic thinking within the intellectual capital approach. The findings indicated that talent management practices built trust, humility, and nurtured sustainable competitive advantage for South African universities. Just as an aside, Ms. Nanu and Dr. Abdul are husband and wife. They are married and have two beautiful little girls. And Ms. Grace will be starting her own PhD journey with me next year. Our next speaker is Dr. Ajadi, Dr. Taiwo Ajadi, and his thesis was titled A Place of Human Resource Management in Developing Workplace Green Behavior in the eThekwini Municipality, Durban, South Africa. And his supervisor was Dr. Mtembu from the GSBNL. His thesis was about damage to the environment and resource depletion is on the increase. Corporate organizations are reportedly one of the highest contributors to to environmental damage and climate change. The study examined how green human resource management practices influence employees in performing green workplace behavior. Green human resource practices were shown to influence pro-environmental behavior amongst employees at the workplace. The study proposed a green HRM model for employees to engage in pro-environmental behavior. Our last speaker for the morning will be Dr. Ndemiso Mdleshede, and her study was about the influence of transformational leadership on employee engagement in the South African Revenue Services in the KZN region. Her study looked at the influence of transformational leadership on employee engagement at the South African Revenue Service. A mixed methodology was used in order to look at the constructs of transformational leadership, revealing that a leader's character is an important attribute that incorporates moral and ethical conduct. The research recommended that organizations should promote employee engagement. If they are engaged, they will be motivated and inevitably improve organizational performance. The last speaker for this morning is Dr. Wuza Munyeka. His study was titled Work-Life Balance, a case of female information and communication technology professionals at a telecommunications company. His study utilized a mixed methodology to examine the work-life balance of female ICT professionals. The study resulted in a work-life balance framework that links the life course perspective and border theory. The novel work-life balance framework has applicability in the human resource management across a diversity of industries. Dr. Reward Utete is our last speaker, and he examined the impact of employment equity amendment on business performance of small and medium companies in Durban. And his supervisor was Professor Nzamakwe. His study looked at the extent to which employment equity amendments affect business performance of small and medium companies in Durban. A mixed method study was used adopting concurrent triangulation. Key findings reveal that amendments to employment equity legislation adversely affects business performance of small companies. The study developed a model which tracked and monitored the impact of employment equity amendments on business performance. So those are the theses that were created by our speakers. And I would like to really congratulate them once again on the achievement of their doctorates as well as their master's degrees. I would like to now allow the speakers to start with their presentations. And our first speaker for this morning is Ms. Grace Nanu. And the title of her presentation, a paper from her thesis, is called Barriers to Employment Equity and Affirmative Action Measures at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Durban, South Africa. Grace, I will hand over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Grace. Go ahead.
I believe everyone is doing well amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. I am very excited to be part of this research showcase. As the host, Dr. Ashika Maharaj has already introduced me. My name is Grace Nkuna. It is a manuscript yet to be submitted to the South Africa Journal of Employee Relations. The title of the paper is Barriers to Employment Equity and Affirmative Action Measures. The title of the paper is Barriers to Employment Equity and Affirmative Action Measures at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Durban, South Africa.
Grace, yes, can you please do a slideshow?
Please, is my screen not showing?
It is showing, but if you can please make it larger and go to the slideshow, because right now we are seeing your presenter view. The slideshow tab is on the top. Grace, are we okay?
Hello, Dr. Maharaj. Hello, Dr. Maharaj.
Yes, go ahead.
Please, can you see it now?
I can see it, Grace. I just wanted you to put it into the slideshow, but go ahead, it's fine. Hi, Grace. Sorry, just close your presentation and open it again. That's fine. Perfect. We can see it now. Go ahead.
Okay, rationale for the study and objectives. Since the 1994 democratic election, the new South African government has made several efforts to address the apartheid legacy of the extremely unequal allocation of resources, wealth, and power. However, evidence suggests that discrimination and inequalities are still prevalent within the South African workplace, which higher education institutions are no exception. The rationale for this study was to help contribute to the promotion of equality within the South African workplace. The study will be useful to higher education institutions and organizations in South Africa, given the fact that it promotes YII through the elimination of unfair discrimination and unfair labor practice. The objectives to be addressed are as follows: to identify the barriers affecting the implementation of employment equity in higher education institutions, and two, to determine the proposed affirmative action measures in response to the barriers affecting employment equity in higher education institutions. This is my empirical literature review. Bendis, 2015, defined employment equity, that is YII, as the employment of people in a fair and transparent manner within the labor market. Affirmative action measures, on the other hand, refers to measures intended to redress the past discrimination experienced by the designated group with a view to achieving equal representation in the various occupational categories and levels within the workplace. Scholars, I have their names written there, conceive that the physical work environment, which is the physical components such as furniture, design, ventilation, lighting system, noise, supervisor support, fire extinguishers, exit, and workspace has been identified as a barrier to YII implementation in many organizations, especially for the physically challenged person. Complex culture. Organizations have a complex culture that regulates their activities. For example, a culture that does not accommodate people from diverse backgrounds. Then we have lack of fair recruitment and selection practices and processes, disparities in the remuneration system. There is a huge disparity in the pay structure in most organizations. Then appointment on the basis of race, gender, and disability, inadequate training, and unclear strategy for succession planning to accelerate the movement and the development of designated groups all constitute the barriers affecting the implementation of YII. Literature review continues. Researchers, I have their names there, advocate that capacity building strategy like mentoring and coaching should be designed for the designated groups to equip them with the skills they need. There should be a clear strategy for succession planning. There must be regular training programs and developmental programs for the designated groups. Retention of designated group should not be problematic. There must be merit-based appointments fair and transparent recruitment and selection practice, equal employment opportunities for all candidates, irrespective of their racial background, equitable and attractive remuneration packages, conducive working environment, and adequate facilities for all, and more especially for the physically challenged person, culture that embraces diversity, and the implementation of social policies. The government and the organizations must implement social policies to help reduce the discrimination. And all these are affirmative action measures that can be used to address the imbalances created by the apartheid government. Research methodology. Before the data collection process, a pilot study was conducted to test the validity and the reliability of the research instruments. The interview guide was sent to 2 experts to seek their opinion concerning the research questions. They suggested some few changes. These changes were made according to their suggestions. Then, prior to the data collection process, an exploratory research design was adapted to gain new ideas and insights on the subject matter. A qualitative study was adapted, which allowed the researcher to interact with the participants. The qualitative study was based on field research, where the HR consultants, HR managers, HR development officers, and the executive responsible for the implementation of ED were interviewed in the College of Law and Management Studies. The study was conducted within the University of KwaZulu-Natal in the Westville campus. Purposive sampling, non-probability strategy was used, where purposive sampling was employed to select 10 participants who have adequate knowledge and experience on the subject matter. But however, the interviews were conducted with only 8 participants. The data was collected through semi-structured interviews, which allow for a more open-ended questions. Thematic analysis was conducted to identify, organize, and report the themes which emerged from the study. The findings, these are the findings from the 8 interviewees at the UKZN. The findings show that the barriers to employment equity in South Africa higher education institutions were disparities in the remuneration and benefits, inadequate training and developmental programs, complex culture that does not embrace diversity, lack of fair recruitment and selection practices, inability to retain designated group was problematic, poor working environment and inadequate provision of facilities, lack of clear strategy for succession planning to accelerate the movement and development of the designated group, and reverse discrimination were all barriers to employment equity in the South Africa higher education institutions. Moreover, the findings reveal that the affirmative action measures that can help to mitigate the barriers to EE include attractive remuneration packages, fair and transparent recruitment and selection practices and processes, merit-based appointment, well-functioning succession planning programs, regular training programs, equal employment opportunities, conducive working environment, retention of designated groups, and a culture that embraces diversity. Discussion. Evidence from the empirical research showed that the implementation of EE at UKZN was hampered by several barriers, including but not limited to disparity in remuneration and benefits, inadequate training and developmental programs, lack of fair and transparent recruitment and selection criteria, difficulty in retaining designated groups, poor working environment, and lack of clear strategy for succession planning and reverse discrimination. These findings are consistent with the findings from previous research. I have their names, the references are there. Also, it was found that affirmative action measures such as attractive remuneration packages, fair and transparent recruitment and selection practices and processes, merit-based appointments, well-functioning succession planning programs, regular training programs, equal employment opportunities, conducive working environment, retention of designated groups, and a culture that embraces diversity could help to address the imbalances and the disparities created in the past. The findings presented above are also supported by existing literature. Contribution to HR, or significance of the study. The study contributes to policy-making process on EE, not only in higher education institutions, but across different industries in South Africa. Furthermore, it provides practical solutions in the form of affirmative action measures to address the barriers of the implementation of EE in higher education institutions. Therefore, it will be of great value to higher education institutions to achieve their EE targets. Additionally, the study will serve as a guide to higher education institutions to comply with EE laws and provisions. This will help higher education institutions to minimize litigations and its associated costs as a result of non-compliance with the EE regulations. I think this is my references for my work. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Grace, for that. That was a very informative presentation. And to those attending, we apologize for the technical issues. Grace was only able to join when the presentations actually started. We are having some issues on campus, I believe, with regards to connectivity. So my apologies for that. Are there any questions for Grace on her presentation? Any comments? You can please put that down on the Q&A. Yes, Mr. Gaba, you have your hand raised. Can you please put your question on the Q&A? There's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Grace, you can stop sharing your presentation. Okay, I'm not sure, Mr. Gaba, I don't know if you want to, please type it on the Q&A if you have a question. Yes, I think for those attending this session, I think we need to understand that this is a developmental stage. This is an opportunity being given to students in a safe space where they can present their presentations. Remember, for many of them, it's the first time that they are actually putting their work out there on the public stage. So I would like developmental comments, constructive criticism, where students can learn and develop their presentation skills. So please understand, these are not presenters who are professional presenters. They're not academics in terms of their, their experience in terms of presentations. So on the Q&A, thank you very much, Margot, for your suggestions. They are all well taken. Definitely, in terms of connectivity, testing your connectivity, checking your presentation, etc. Those comments are definitely warranted and taken under consideration. I think with Grace, your presentation was very good, if not a bit wordy. Normally how we do our slides is that we put the main points on the slide. We don't write down the entire article or the entire speech. We merely put down the main points and we speak to it. So for future presentations, which you will be doing, just bear that in mind. So thank you once again, Grace, for your presentation. And for the remainder of the speakers, when you're pulling up your PowerPoint, there is a slideshow tab on the ribbon above. If you click on that, you will be able to start your presentation in a slideshow format where we are not looking at a big screen and all of the little slides down the side of your presentation. So I'm going to move on now to Dr. Abdul. Lawrence, if you can please start sharing your presentation and follow the instruction regarding the slideshow. Okay, if you look at the tabs on the top, Lawrence, you'll see you've got it on home. If you move to your right, you will find a tab saying slideshow.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Lawrence. Can you do what I've asked you to do, dear? Go to the tabs on the top and to slideshow. You know, you've got home, insert, design, transitions, animations, slideshow. It's the gray bar on the top, the tab.
Yeah, I'm just
not the red section, the gray section. Can you see the home button there, Lawrence? On the left-hand side, file home.
No, I cannot see it. What I can see here is the mute, stop video, participant chat, question and answer.
Okay, on your PowerPoint. On your PowerPoint presentation that you opened.
Yes, please.
Okay, you'll see, yeah, then if you go home, can you see that? Home, insert, design, transitions, animation, yes, slideshow.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then from the beginning, the first button down there from the beginning, you'll see that little sort of like a screen from the beginning. Below file.
From the beginning, yes, please.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. Good morning once again. My name is Dr. Lawrence Abdul.
It sounds very good, Lawrence. I like the doctor in front.
Thank you very much. I'm here just to present on one of my manuscripts that was submitted to the South African Journal of Human Resource Management. The title of the manuscript is Talent Management as a Source of Sustainable Competitive Advantage for Higher Education Institutions During the COVID-19 Pandemic. My supervisor was Professor Isabel Martin. Sorry. The rationale for the study. COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted academic programs in universities across different world or in a different region, of which some have closed indefinitely. Therefore, for university to survive in this turbulent environment, they will require highly skilled and talented employees. From the perspective of the knowledge-based view of the firm, knowledge or talent is considered as a unique resource required to obtain and transform other resources. This means that for an organization to navigate through the challenges occasioned by the COVID-19, they will require people with the skill and the knowledge to be able to perform their tasks more efficiently and effectively. So due to the competition for talent, employers need to implement talent management practices to develop and retain talent. The view expressed by the above authors underscore the importance of talent development. This study is motivated by the need to promote the sustainability of South African university during and after the COVID-19 pandemic through talent development. To achieve the broad aim of the study, the following hypotheses were formulated and tested. There is a positive relationship between training and development and competitive advantage. There is a significant positive relationship between career development and competitive advantage. The preliminary literature review. Talent development is considered as an organizational activity aimed at maintaining and enhancing career skills and knowledge to align them with the organizational strategic goal. On the other hand, researchers believe that competitive advantage represent the firm's internal non-immutable resources. This means that for an organization to achieve a competitive advantage, it requires people with the knowledge, the skill that can transform other resources. Therefore, human capital, rational capital, and structural capital are sources of sustainable competitive advantage for firms, including universities. A study revealed that talent development has a positive effect in sustaining organizational competitive advantage. According to Rabi and others, learning, training, and development are considered the basis of a firm's success. Other studies have also found that talent development strategies contribute to building sustainability of firm. The theoretical framework that underpins this study. The theoretical framework on which this study will be predicated is the knowledge-based view of the firm. The knowledge-based view of the firm considers knowledge as the most strategically significant resources of the firm. From the perspective of the knowledge-based view of the firm, knowledge is considered as a unique resource required to obtain and transform other resources. Likewise, Benny postulates that firms need dynamic capability to convert or turn other resources to build a sustainable competitive advantage. The tacit, specific, and the dynamic knowledge developed by firms through replication create a sustainable competitive advantage for a firm. Therefore, the assumption of the knowledge-based view of the firm theory suggests that for university to navigate this trying moment occasioned by the COVID-19, they will require the knowledge workers who have the explicit and the tacit knowledge. The research methodology. Descriptive research was carried out, which helped to describe the phenomenon adequately and accurately. Quantitative research was used to measure the phenomenon by collecting and analyzing numerical data. The study was conducted in 3 South African universities, namely University of Cape Town, University of KwaZulu-Natal, and University of Pretoria. The target population of the study was 1,800 employees in the university. In determining the sample size, the study took into consideration the 5% margin of error and 95% confidence level. Therefore, the appropriate sample size for the study was 317. The data was collected through an online survey using a structured questionnaire. The statistical package for the social sciences, version 27, was used to analyze the data. The interpretation and analysis of the data were done using both the descriptive and inferential statistics. Now, to determine the relationship between the construct in the study, Pearson moment correlation and regression analysis were used. The Pearson correlation indicated a moderate positive relationship between career development and competitive advantage. Moreover, there was a moderate positive relationship between training and development and competitive advantage. So from the findings, it can be argued that there was a positive relationship between training and development and the sustainability of higher education institutions during and after the COVID-19. The discussion of the result. The study empirically tested the developed conceptual model and hypothesis by collecting data from the academics within the 3 universities in South Africa. The findings show a positive relationship between training and development and competitive advantage during the COVID-19 pandemic. These findings reaffirm the result of previous research carried out by other scholars. Additionally, the finding indicated a significant positive relationship between career development and sustainability of South Africa University during the COVID-19 pandemic. These findings are also consistent with other research undertaken by other authors. Now, the contribution or significance of this study. This study makes a significant contribution to the theories and practices for talent development and sustainable competitive advantage. The study empirically tested the model concerning the talent development strategies, which are the training and development and career development that promote the sustainability of university. The study demonstrates that sustainable competitive advantage during the COVID-19 pandemic could be created through training and development and career development. This indicates that the study is a step forward in better understanding how the competitive advantage in university could be created during the COVID-19 pandemic. The study will serve as a foundation for future research to test the model on talent development and sustainable competitive advantage in different organizational contexts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. That was really informative. And I really wish you all the best in your future endeavors. I know you've got a very bright career in academia.
Thank you.
Lawrence is actually one of our part-time lecturers as well, and an invaluable asset to the discipline. So thank you so much, Lawrence, for your presentation. Are there any comments or queries that you have? Please type on the Q&A. Dr. Ajadi, while we wait for Q&A on Lawrence's presentation, can you please start sharing yours? Yes, Lawrence, you can stop sharing your screen. Thank you. One comment from my side, Lawrence. When you're doing your findings and discussion, remember, a PowerPoint presentation is a visual presentation, right? Okay. So I know you've got colorful graphs and pictures in your thesis. When you're doing your PowerPoint, you should try and have more visual presentation, especially around the findings, you know, where we can actually look at a picture or a graph or a table or whatever that is, and then you can obviously speak to that. All right, so that's always more visually appealing, and that's always something that when we're doing presentations, we need to bear that in mind. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Well noted.
Okay, Dr. Dr. Ajadi, you may begin when you are ready. Welcome. Lawrence, please switch off your camera as well.
Okay. Good morning. Okay.
Good morning.
You're welcome. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for giving me the chance to come and present my paper, one of my articles. Yeah. So the topic is influence of. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So the topic is the influence of green training and green reward. Green training and green reward and compensation practices on environmental behaviors in the workplace. Okay, so the measuring HR managers. So the HR department is also in that places the HR department in the best position to influence employee behaviors. So the research question here is that, okay, how does green training and green reward and compensation practices influence environmental behavior in the workplace? The objectives are to assess the influence of green training and green reward on environmental behavior. So that's basically what I'm trying to measure there. For literature review, we have different authors that have defined green workplace behavior. So I chose the one for Wons and Dillchart, which defines it as it contributes to achieving environmental goal of an organization. Then then Norton and et al. Categorized it into their different voluntary green behavior and non-voluntary or involuntary, whichever case you want to call it. Then for voluntary, it describes as behaviors engaged in on their own free will. Employees can engage in voluntary behaviors by deciding to switch off the light, to conserve energy, or to conserve paper by printing on double sides instead of one side, one page, things like that. The non-voluntary behaviors are the ones expected by the organization, directed by the management. There are some instructions, policies that the management has to put in place to show that they are deliberate in managing the environment. So those are non-voluntary behaviors. Then green reward and compensation. These are reward can be done in two ways. It can be either financial and non-financial. So financial are what they pay their, if the organization decides to pay their workers, their employees, to reward them for keeping the environment clean, they can do that. And for non-financial, by giving them awards, monthly rewards, bonuses, things like that. There are ways they can give non-financial rewards, non-financial awards too. While green training is whereby they are giving training, environmental management training. There are different trainings actually, the waste management training, energy training, how to conserve all of these things, how to conserve energy, how to conserve water, how to conserve waste, how to reduce waste, things like that. Those are training that the organization can decide to give. Because if they are really deliberate, if they are really serious about managing the environment, these are trainings. There are lots of several trainings that can be done in that respect. So Renwick, Redman, and Maguire also said something on that. For the research methodology, it was a mixed method research design. 66 questionnaires. We shared 80 questionnaires actually. I shared 80 questionnaires it was conducted at the municipality. So I shared 80 questionnaires, 66 was returned. And I interviewed 7 HR managers across the Nkuna, because it was they have different HR managers for different units. For electricity, the municipality electricity, they have an HR manager for that. For water, they have an HR manager. So I went across all of these different units across the Nkuna, and I interviewed all of them. So the questionnaires were validated through a pilot study and a comeback alpha test. Quantitative analysis was employed using SPSS. Correlation and regression was done on the data. The in-depth interview was validated using Lincoln and Gruber's 1985 4 steps. The steps are credibility, transferability, dependability, and conformability. Then qualitative analysis was done using in vivo semantic analysis. The findings. So for the quantitative findings, the study found that green training positively influences green workplace behavior to a great extent, because we found that, I found that, sorry, I found that this has to be combined with, although it has to be combined with a little bit of motivation, reward. The employees has to be rewarded for them to really engage in this training, and that then for green reward too, we found that reimbursements, bonuses, and recognition-based programs were the most influential rewards for green behaviors. For qualitative findings, the study found also that green training does influence green behavior, sorry, that was the typo. Green training does influence green behavior if there are some interventions such as training structures, if there are structures in place, if they are in place provided by the organization, and if they see that the organization are serious when they have green awareness programs on ground, then the employees too will set an example, will follow the organization in trying to conserve the environment. And green promotions and green compensation provided by management. So those are all the qualitative findings reviewed, that you cannot just bring up green training. There has to be some other things in place, like green structures, green awareness, green promotion, and compensation, a little bit of compensation. Although the compensation could be non-financial, and those are much more effective. So some green rewards were tied to performance, non-financial rewards, and provision of structures to encourage green behavior. So the study found that green behaviors will be, the green training and green reward largely influences green behavior, environmental workplace. For the discussions, there are different people, several of them, a lot of them concord with the results, stating that green training acts as a mediating effect and impact on the organization. Because if the management instructs them to come and to conserve the environment, to save the environment, to consider the environment in their operations, and if there is no training to that effect, if they don't see that the organization is serious about it, it will not work. So there has to be a sort of of engagement, a sort of seriousness, a show of seriousness from the side of management. Also is a way of instilling green culture in an organization. There's also a green culture where if that's all of that is done, the organization will see it as, okay, this is one of the culture of the organization and they won't depart from it. So also alluded that green behaviors in the second one, Wons and Richard also alluded that green behaviors can be influenced with educational and motivational interventions, since training practices were highly associated with the improved performance and behavior among employees. So this is just buttressing the findings. Then Uber and then Tang and Eta believed non-financial rewards were significant and influential enough to change workplace behavior towards environmental behavior. In addition, Opata and Aruraja and Tang and Eta believed that both financial and non-financial reward was important, but non-financial was add better motivational values to employees. That is what we found out amongst employees of eThekwini municipality. I'm not saying for all other people, but amongst eThekwini municipality, non-financial rewards add a better motivational value. So the contribution to HR and significance of the study is understanding the influence of green training and green reward and how it can be used strategically to influence workplace behavior across organizations. Because organizations, they don't have a choice now, or they have to put in place, green structures, green promotions in order to be relevant, because it is now becoming a yardstick measurement for them to be seen as globally responsible, environmentally responsible. That's that, okay, are you environmentally responsible? What have you put in place to show us that you are serious about saving the environment? And HR departments can manage green employees. There's a model in my thesis that we developed that can help how HR department can manage workplace behaviors among employees in the workplace. Yeah, I think that's our references. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Taiwo. That was really informative. And I think your thesis encapsulates the whole idea behind a PhD, where you are generating new knowledge and creating models that can assist actual practitioners in how to actually remedy these situations. Because I think it's important for us to realize that, as students, we need to understand that the problems that we are researching need to have practical solutions, because our area or our discipline is about a practical workplace. It's a doing subject. Yeah. People actually work in this field. So I'm very happy to see that you've done something in this space of green HRM, which, I think it's a fairly new topic, however, a very critically important topic. So I'm glad to see that the work that you've done can actually now be shared with companies, with institutions, so that we can actually start, making the environmental responsibility part of the CSR. So thank you very much for that presentation, Taiwo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Participants and speakers, if there are any questions for Dr. Ajadi, please put it on the Q&A. Okay, if there are no other questions, and Taiwo, on your presentation itself, a very beautiful presentation, very visually appealing. I like the way in which you used your colors and really highlighted the important aspects that you wanted to discuss and bring our attention to. So well done on the presentation as well.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Dr. Ndemiso Mdleshe. If you can please share your presentation, Doc, I'd appreciate that.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Ashika. Am I audible?
You are audible. Can you do me one favor?
Yes.
Can you please make your presentation a slideshow? If you look on the PowerPoint presentation, the red ribbon on the top there, if you go to slideshow.
Okay. Is that fine now?
No. We've lost your presentation. And Ndemiso, can you share your screen again? We've lost you. Ndemiso, we've lost your presentation. Can you reshare your screen, please? Okay, I'm not sure what's happening with Ndemiso's connection. Maybe we will move on to the next speaker. Wiza, can you please share your presentation there? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Can go ahead. You still muted, Wiza?
Okay, sorry about that. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Wiza Munyeka. I'm still trying to get used to the doctor title, so forgive me for just saying Wiza Munyeka. Well, I am here to present on my topic, on a manuscript that I submitted. What's happening with my presentation? Not sure what's happening.
Just press enter and then the slide will move. Or the down arrow is fine as well.
No. It seems to be working.
Okay. Do you want Rashika to maybe share it for you? Then you can stop sharing. Okay, so Wiza, I think you can stop sharing. Rashika, if you can share Dr.
I think
Munyeka.
it's fine now.
Oh, it's
Can
fine.
you see?
Okay, all right.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So my manuscript is titled A Qualitative Study on Salient Work-Life Balance Challenges Influencing Female ICT Professionals in a South African Telecommunications Organization. This was submitted to the South African Journal of Human Resource Management, and the manuscript number is 1659. My supervisor was Dr. Ashika Maharaj. All right, now moving on to the order of the day, the need for the study or the research objective. This study's primary purpose was to investigate salient work-life balance challenges influencing female ICT professionals in a South African telecommunications organization. This study is essential as it holds the potential to determine the proportion of discrepancies on salient work-life balance challenges female ICT professionals face and their abilities to combine work and family life at the telecommunications company. And as we know, females in society hold a very important role in society in that they have to balance between work and their family life. This is very important for us to understand in today's workplace as women are becoming more career-oriented. All right, the literature review. Work-life balance is not merely the time divided between work life and non-work life. It needs to be achieved by minimizing the conflict amongst these two domains by balancing the multiple roles and tasks involved. As I've said, women occupy a very special position in society in that they have to be a mother on one hand, for instance, and be a career woman on the other hand. Not to say that those that are not mothers do not have the roles that mothers have, but they also have other roles that they are involved in as they navigate day-to-day life, their lives. An understanding of work-life balance in South Africa is best gained by considering employees' experiences, which is very important. And the new workforce is more likely to include people from historically disadvantaged and excluded groups, changing the traditional roles of families. The research methodology, a quantitative approach using a cross-sectional survey design was used to collect data from female information communications and telecommunications professionals, and the number was 50. Cronbach's alpha coefficients, exploratory factor analysis, measure of central tendency and dispersion analysis were used to analyze the data. The study used statistical analysis which resulted in the creation of a questionnaire and the constructs of this work-life balance as they relate to the study to prepare the first draft of the measurement tool. Right, the findings and discussions. It was very interesting to note that the main findings indicated the challenges of the different age groups, with the age groups 21 to 25 exhibiting the highest score for combining work and family. Just as a side view here, a marketplace Edison research poll found that that was conducted by Dan Sherbo, an expert on millennials, actually found that millennials actually hold combining work and family a high regard. And it also uncovered that because these individuals normally do not have so much in their lives going on at the same time, they are able to balance work and family more than the older folks. Challenges such as gender stereotypes revealed positive and negative treatments in the workplace. Flexibility and time management and dependent adults and children related tasks also revealed that females sometimes had difficulties being flexible, resulting in a disruption of their work or their life roles. The equal sharing of home responsibilities play a critical or an important role in giving females equal chances in building their careers. contribution to human resource or the significance of the study. Future research may examine the experiences of a more diverse range of occupations or a comparative study between a female sample versus a male sample to ascertain differences in challenges and experiences. A vast amount of work-life balance studies have been undertaken in Western and Asian contexts, leaving out the sub-Saharan African experience, and in this case, the South African context. This study identified the importance of understanding the dynamics of work-life balance in female information communications and technology professions in a male-dominated sector, reflecting on future research areas. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Wiza. That was an excellent presentation. I like your little man down there balancing, or is that a woman, or is that a neutral?
It's a neutral. I would like to keep it neutral.
Thank you so much. That was really, really excellent. I like your presentation, good use of color, not too wordy. That was good. But again, also, like I said, your visual appeal is there with your colors. But again, in terms of how we present the findings, I think more graphics, in terms of the tables and figures and all of those kind of things will also help to break the monotony. I did give you all quite a short window to do the presentation. However, when you're doing conference papers and things like that, your presentation time will vary up to 15 minutes or even 20 minutes. So we need to keep the reader, the audience engaged. So I think one of the main things would be that we actually use more visual presentation. So findings in a table, findings, a pie chart, a bar graph, your cluster that you use from NNIVO, etc. I think those sort of things to include would be fantastic as well. So thank you so much, Wiza. Truly appreciate it. All right, so we're going to move on to our next speaker, who is Dr. Reward Utete. Reward, if you can please share your presentation with us. Dr. Utete.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Doc, we can hear you. You can please start sharing.
I'm sorry for being late. So there's some network problems here. Please, can you help me? Can you kindly share
the presentation?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. Just give me 1 second. Okay, you can go ahead and then just let me know when you'd like me to change the slide. All right?
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Okay, this is part of my study. All right, but I took the quantitative part as I was preparing the manuscript that I had sent you. The topic is examining the impact of employment equity amendments on the business performance of small and medium companies in Durban. My supervisor is the Prof. Makwe. Can go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is the rationale of the study. Although there is an increasing repertoire of SME studies, there is a need to focus on a specific body of research exploring the impact of amendments to implement equity on business performance of SMEs. My primary objectives was to ascertain the extent to which the implement equity amendments affect business performance of small and medium companies in Durban. Can you go to the next slide now? Thank you. Yeah, there were mixed views and contradictions emerged in the literature, which indicate that complying with implement equity amendment necessitates SMEs acquiring compliance certificates, which can support them to get tenders from government. Furthermore, complying with the implement equity amendment improves reputation and image of the organization by labeling it as a law-abiding organization. For these reasons, through the improvement in the image of the organization, the customer base tends to increase, which in turn improves sales and ultimately results in an improved in business performance. These are important factors for them to survive and remain competitive. We can go to the next slide now. So, though the whole study was a mixed research, this one I prepared as part of my study. This is a quantitative part of the study that I wrote a manuscript on. The research methodology on this one, an exploratory research study design and the quantitative research method were utilized in this research. Web-based questionnaire was used to collect the data. A simple random sampling technique was employed to select a sample in which a computer-generated random numbers was utilized in selecting the sample. In accordance with this, the sample size table developed by Craigie and Morgan, 1970, a sample size of 226 should be utilized for the target population of I lost my slide now, Doc. I lost my slide. Please, can you hear?
Sorry. My connection went low there. Let me just put it back.
Oh, yes.
Sorry about that, yeah. Which one are we on? Sorry.
Okay. I was at the research methodology.
Okay. Okay, can we see that now?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
For this study, the primer that was collected utilizing structured close-ended questionnaires. Please help to the next slide. Thank you. The findings and discussion. The results from the regression analysis established that the new employment equity amendment legislation heavily affects the business performance of SMEs. The key findings of the study indicated that most amendments to employment equity legislation are adversely affecting business performance of small and medium companies. The study findings also revealed that among all the amendments, only the equal pay for equal work and the removal of occupational categories positively affected the business performance of SMEs. The impact of employment equity amendments on the business performance of SMEs has been established, as the primary objective of the study was accomplished. Go to the next slide, Doc. Next slide, please, Doc. Thank you. The contribution of the contribution to HR was significant in the study. The research significantly contributed to the existing body of knowledge in respect of amendments to employment equity legislation and its impact on business performance through revealing new insights. This study developed a model which is useful in tracking and monitoring the impact of amendments to employment equity legislation on business performance. With this study, organization will be able to identify which amendments to employment equity legislation have an impact on the business performance of small and medium companies in Durban. Even large companies can also gain insights from the results of this research and can apply some of the suggested recommendations. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you so much, Reward. That was a very good presentation, a very interesting topic. I like the way in which you actually gave a unique spin. You know, part of a PhD study is your unique take on an old problem. You know, when students come to us with research topics, we always ask them, so what is the gap in knowledge? You know, employment equity studies, etc., around employment equity and its impact on business performance, etc., has been done many times. But what I'm liking is the way in which you have found your niche or your gap, where you're looking specifically at the amendments in terms of employment equity and how that has impacted on the performance of, again, a niche, small and medium-sized businesses. So that was really, you know, I can see why your study did so well in terms of, you know, well, I've been privy to the examiner's reports, but I can't share any further details. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Reward. That was really good. Dr. Plakis, you have your hand raised. I saw your hand go up. I'm not sure if you want to ask a question, but please do so on the chat, and we can always ask Reward to respond to that on the chat, or perhaps slightly later in the session. So thank you very much, Reward, for that presentation. We did lose you in the MISO. I believe you are back. So can you please share your screen and your presentation? Thank you.
Thank you, Doc, and apologies for that. And I'm like, goodness, the way that I went on and on, I didn't even realize that I'm talking to myself, because when you are doing slideshow, you can't see whether you still have people in the room. But thank you for affording me an opportunity once again. Let me share my slides. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes, I can. Now, can you do me a favor, please? Go up to the red ribbon. Can you see you're on home currently? Can you go to the slideshow tab, please?
It's on slideshow now.
Okay, but we're still seeing your slides on the side, and we're still seeing the big slide. Okay, so if you go to slideshow, come down to slideshow. There we go. Click on it, and then from the beginning. Perfect.
Okay. Okay, once again, thank you for affording me an opportunity. I don't know where I have lost you, but I'm gonna start from the beginning.
Sorry, dear. Can you try that clicking on from the beginning again?
From the beginning. Okay, can you see anything?
I can still see the same view. Try clicking from current slide. The next, yeah.
Okay, how does it look now?
Click on that. Click on that.
Current slide, yes. It's okay. From my side, it's actually on slideshow.
Yeah. Okay, it's not doing anything on the actual screen. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, if I leave it on the normal one, how does it look?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, because this one is no, it's not like it's slideshow now. It's on the normal, presenter screen.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay. Once again, before the system kicks me out, because I don't know what has prompted it. So thank you for affording me an opportunity. And my study was on the influence of transformational leadership on employee engagement. And of course, my name is Nondumiso Mdletshe. And should I say Dr. Nondumiso Mdletshe? Well, it's still new to me. You understand, they call doctor and I call the next person, hey, doctor, somebody is calling you, yet they're referring to me. So I'm still trying to get used to the title. So the rationale for the study, for me, the main aim of the study was to ascertain what influence does transformational leadership has on employee engagement. And the study was, of course, based in KZN in the South African Revenue Services. So obviously based in KZN region. Are you still with me? Hello, Dr. Ashik?
We're with you. We're with you.
Oh, okay, all right. Now I'm nervous because I don't want to talk and realize I'm talking to myself. Okay, so the objective of the study investigated the effects of transformational leadership behaviors. So what those behaviors had on employee engagement. And then secondly, the study, sought to understand the extent to which idealized influence impacts employee engagement. So also to evaluate the influence of inspirational motivation on employee engagement, to analyze the influence of intellectual stimulation on employee engagement, and lastly, to assess the impact that individualized consideration has on employee engagement. And just a brief, touch on literature review. The current turbulent economic era, which is coupled with fourth industrial revolution disruption, considers leadership to be most vital and effective machinery of an organization for overcoming the current changing business trends, as well as limiting socio-economic issues. So the shift from the traditional models of hierarchical and legitimate power practices, which is challenged by new generation that is entering our market, is obviously requiring strong and effective leadership whose role will obviously be to guide the subordinates. So transformational leadership serves that role in that it influences the followers to transcend self-interest and commit themselves to strive for higher order needs as well as excellence. So transformational leadership inspires employees, and this increases the meaningfulness of work as well as group cohesion. And transformational leadership is obviously underpinned by the concept of Ubuntu, which is recognizing our commonality and is showing humility as well as compassion and tolerance for each other. So it also emphasizes on the collective work ethic, shared vision, as well as the creative work. So transformational leadership has got four models. What are those four models? So we've got idealized influence model, we've got inspirational motivational model, intellectual stimulation, as well as individualized considerations, wherein each one means as follows. So idealized influence leadership creates the value that inspires, establishes, and engender a sense of purpose among the people. So when we talk about the idealized influence type of leadership, we are talking about the leadership that is associated with charismatic leadership. These are the leaders that provide the role model for high ethical behavior. They instill pride and gain respect and trust. And if we look at the key elements for idealized leadership style or model, it involves the modeling, the providing meaning and purpose, the creating and articulating values and instilling confidence, self-determination, self-esteem, as well as the emotional control in the followers. Secondly, the inspirational motivational leaders. These are the leaders that allow employees to exercise their creativity, their experimentation capabilities. These are the leaders that encourages a positive and a productive contribution to the organization. So with inspirational motivation leaders, they challenge the followers with high standards. They communicate optimism about the future achievement of the goals, as well as they provide meaning for the task, for the task at hand, as well as they raise the consciousness of their followers or the subordinates about the organization's mission and vision. So if we look at the key elements for inspirational motivation, here we talk about the leaders that that challenge the workers or employees, that gives their employees autonomy and encouragement, and those that drive the organization's vision and mission and communicate the said. And if we go to intellectual stimulation, these are the leaders that cultivate the techniques for solving problems regarding their followers in order for them to tackle the complex challenges. So the intellectual stimulation, they stimulate their followers to question old paradigms. They encourage innovation. They reframe the problems and approach all situations in the new way. They develop and nurture the independent thinkers. They are not challenged by the independent thinkers, but they appreciate them. They figure out or they assist their followers or employees or subordinates to find better ways to execute tasks, to think deeply about the things and ask questions. So what are the elements of this intellectual stimulation? It's intellectual stimulation, supporting the involvement, the consensus, decision-making, rationality, coaching, as well as challenging. And the last model, which is the individualized consideration, these are the leaders that display concern for their workers' needs and coach the development of the behavior that is preferred in the workplace. These are the leaders that create the conducive environment that will allow for the continuous learning in the organization. Here, when we talk about the individualized consideration leaders, we talk about the leaders that pay special attention to the individual's needs, for achievement, for their growth by acting as a coach and a mentor. These are the leaders that pay special attention to individual needs, to their expectations, to their wants, to their offers, or rather they offer the support as well as empathy. So if we look at the elements of this one, we talk about it comprises of the caring for and encouraging and coaching the individuals. And this is happening in a form of an open and a consultative type of an approach. And then running into employee engagement, because we have two variables that we're looking at. So employee engagement, we're saying here the current reality, which is characterized by numerous disruptions. We think about some disruptions, it could be your political, economic, social, technological, environmental, as well as any other legislative disruption that may come. And also in the environment that you are operating in, we are challenged by the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, and the ambiguity in the environment in which you are working in. And such disruptions, they are demanding the workforce that is committed, that is engaged. So organizations that are serious enough are now investing on employee engagement practices because it is believed that engaged workforce results in the organizational effectiveness or in organizational improvement. Engaged employees are those that are focused, they are those that are energetic and fully engrossed in their jobs. And leadership style is very, very critical in improving employee engagement, in improving employee satisfaction, as well as enthusiasm for the work, because obviously it contributes to the bottom line of the organization. So therefore, right leadership leads to higher levels of engagement that can drive the organization performance, that can drive the organization's effectiveness, that can yield the positive contribution to the organization's bottom line. So what research methodology have we looked at? And the study used the mixed methods methodology, wherein qualitative data was collected using interviews, And thematic analysis was done to analyze the data, wherein in vivo thematic analysis was used because it specifically adopted the techniques such as word clouds, cluster maps, as well as tree maps. And the total number of participants for that were selected for interviews, there were 18 participants were purposefully selected for the study. And then in terms of the quantitative data, self-administered questionnaires were used and the SSP was used to analyze the data. And 231 questionnaires were dispatched in the KZN area, wherein 221 questionnaires were returned. So this gave the researcher 96% of response rate, which was a fairly good representation. And then in terms of the findings and the discussions, the study did find that there was no distinct definition of what transformational leadership is, but what was more common among everyone else was that it was about inspiring and motivating employees to change without force. So that voluntary wanting to do what you have to do for the organization was the most important key finding. And it was believed that employee engagement also did not offer unique definition. And the study also considered that with the right leadership, and in this case, of course, transformational leadership leads to higher levels of employee engagement, which improves organizational effectiveness or organizational performance. Poor leadership leads to lack of trust, disengagement, low staff morale, and the reluctance to go extra mile, which is what we call sometimes the discretionary effort. So the inclusion of staff members in decision-making improve engagement levels, and transformational leadership behaviors, they positively influence employee engagement, and the absence of such behaviors, obviously they will have a negative effect on employee engagement. And lastly, what we find was that the continuous communication was very, very key in leadership because they drive the mission, they drive the vision of the organization, wherein the staff members had to follow in executing such. And in terms of the contribution to the HR field, if we look at the South African history, which was regulated by apartheid laws, where there was white supremacy, which dominated and perpetuated inferiority of other race groups, which ultimately led to autocratic leadership style. So, and look at the world now, the world that we are operating in, which has significantly changed and has introduced so many complexities that are requiring effective leadership approach. So the study has actually shown us that transformational leadership approach is going to be able to remedy the challenges or the baggages that we still have of the past. And it also emphasizes on the African philosophy of Ubuntu, which is an important contributor of ethics in leadership. I am because you are. So that mantra is very, very important in transformational leadership because it drives the mission, it drives the common approach, the common thinking when you are in a group, when you are in an organization. So it also gives rise to the collective sense of identity among members of the organization, thereby encouraging leadership commitment and coaching. And lastly, the changes in the world, it requires the disbandment of all these conventional leadership approaches and an adoption of approaches that will advocate strong synergies between the leaders as well as the followers or the subordinates in order to achieve the better yield. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ndumiso. And do you think you did a better one on the first try or the second try?
I wish I executed myself. I don't know.
Okay, thank you so much. You can stop sharing your screen. I really like your presentation. Again, I think your topic was excellent. As a supervisor, I can tell you honestly, employee engagement has been done to death. But again, as a PhD student, I'm very glad to see your gap, your niche that you've identified. your context of your study, SARS, our favorite pet hate, sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, it is actually quite interesting that you said, SARS being as legislated and regulated as it is in its business practice, actually allowed staff to voluntarily make these changes. So that was something that was quite interesting. I didn't expect it from that sort of, in organization. But it's quite heartwarming to actually see that those sort of measures are taking place within that particular organization. So thank you once again for your presentation. Colleagues, that has brought us to the end of our lineup in terms of speakers. I would like to really take this opportunity to thank all of you for being here today. Prof. MacArthur, if you are still here with us, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Rakshika, if you could allow Prof. MacArthur to maybe say a few words.
I've done so, Ashka.
Thank you. Prof. MacArthur, if you can give us a few wise words of wisdom.
Good afternoon, good day, Dr. Maharaj and all colleagues. It really has been a pleasure for me to be just listening to the presentations. I do want to commend the discipline on taking this initiative. I think it's a brilliant start, and obviously we will build further on this initiative going further. I think we should also look at the other disciplines offering similar opportunities for our doctoral graduates to present their work. So congratulations to those new doctors. Get used to using the title. You have earned it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity just to say a few words. Keep well.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. MacArthur, for those of you that don't know him, is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of our College of Law and Management Studies. I don't like to use the acting title because Prof. MacArthur has been doing a sterling job. There's no acting involved. So thank you once again, Prof, for being here with us. So just as with my concluding remarks for the session, those of you who are thinking of embarking on your PhD studies, I want you to, get what I need you to take away from the session is the fact that you would have noticed that students have identified the niche area. They have identified the gaps in, like I've said, maybe the problem is an old problem. Maybe the area of research is something that has been done to death, in terms of being researched. But there's always an angle, there's always a niche, as life evolves, as our world evolves, there are going to be these new areas, new angles, new lenses that we can look at all problems. And I'm very glad to have showcased the studies that were done here today, because that is exactly what they have actually done. So congratulations on that, all participants. I want to also, take my hat off to the fact that we covered 4 IR in terms of, new areas of research. We covered diversity and inclusion. We looked at the new HRM practices in terms of the new world of work. So these are all, again, like I've said, the areas that have been focused on, but again, the lens at which or that we use in order to focus on these areas. And part of the PhD journey is creating a model, or a policy document for, if you are doing, for example, like with the SARS, if you're working within a particular organization, you can create a new policy document that they can use in that particular area of employee engagement. So, innovative, interesting ideas, You know, we as your supervisors will always assist you around your methodology. As long as you have the idea and you can flesh it out, you can show us the relevance of it. You know, how is it new in terms of the niche area, the gap in the research, you know, area. That is what would drive a PhD student. And obviously the area of study. I think also in terms of, you know, the way in which we approach our studies, you know, it's a long journey. Many of you have been, our speakers have been with us for more than 4 years. It is a journey, right? I think that is a critical thing to understand. A PhD doesn't happen overnight. I think we give you like 4 years in order to complete it. You need to have that fire within yourself in order to actually push through. I think for me, my PhD journey was one of the loneliest journeys. Along the way, I lost my dad. There was restructuring at the university, you know, all sorts of challenges that life throws at you. But you've got to have that drive, commitment, and passion to push through your challenges. And it has to be something that you really want for yourself at the end of the day. So I think I know most of you personally here, the students that presented, and you know, hats off to you again. You really had that drive, passion, and enthusiasm to push through all your challenges to actually get where you are today. So congratulations once again. I echo the words of our DVC. Congratulations, and please use your titles. You surely have earned it. Thank you very much to our corporate relations team, Rakshika, for setting up the webinar today. I truly appreciate it. And thank you very much to everyone who's participated today. As you would have seen, this was a developmental exercise, as I mentioned earlier in the session as well. It's to give students the opportunity in a safe space to present their work, to get pointers, because many of them haven't presented before. You know, it's a learning experience, it's a learning curve. So giving them that opportunity to actually use PowerPoint, do the presentation, get some tips on how to improve your presentations, because they will be presenting at conferences going forward, especially if they are in the academic space. So thank you again to everyone who participated today. Truly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules, and have a great morning further.
Thank you, Doc. Have a great day too, and keep safe.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, everyone.